Alrighty, everyone, welcome back. We just literally got done filming the post series recap, but we're on a double duty tonight alongside myself. I have Ian with me, joining me to do this pre series preview for the Red Sox versus Tigers series that is getting started tomorrow. Red Sox have a 3-game set against the Tigers. Both teams are coming into this series having a bit of a letdown in their opening series of 2022. Red Sox dropped 2-3 to the Yankees, and the Tigers dropped 2-3 to the White Sox. So, yeah, we'll just get right into it. Ian, what are your general takeaways on how the Detroit Tigers are going to be as a team this year? Because if you ask me, obviously they had a huge couple big offseason acquisitions and Javi Baez signing him to a 6-year, $140 million contract. And they were able to steal or sign Eduardo Rodriguez away from us to a 5-year contract. They have a lot of people on the top half of their order, in my opinion, who can hit for power and also hit for average. And you have someone like Miguel Cabrera, who's clearly a shell of his former self and is not once what he used to be. But at one point, he was the best pure hitter in the MLB, in my opinion. And you add someone like Eduardo Rodriguez to the staff, and you have a couple more serviceable pitchers in your staff who will be facing in the series who can eat up innings for you. So, what are your takeaways on how this Detroit Tigers team is going to perform this year?
Yeah, so I like the Tigers a lot this year. Now, I still think that they're a few years away from being real contenders at this point. But they have a lot of guys. They got Spencer Torkelson, who is going to be a really good player in the MLB. He's going to be a good player this year. Maybe not this year, but in the future, he's going to be the Tigers' future. Casey Mize is a really good pitcher for the Tigers. He was their top prospect for a long time. Javier Baez, no matter your opinion on him, whether, he's overrated, underrated, whatever, he's still a really good player. He's going to help the Tigers a lot. And they got guys like Akil Badu, who also kind of burst onto the scene last year, who is looked for poised to have another good season this year. So I like this Tigers team. I don't know how much winning they're going to do this year, just due to the fact that their team is still super young. But, in the future, the Detroit Tigers could be a formidable foe in the next few years.
No, I agree. I think that they're not there yet with contending. And I think if they were to get Carlos Correa, like they were rumored to have interest in this offseason, they definitely would have been a lot closer to contending. But they're getting there. And I still think it's really the Chicago White Sox division to lose.
Oh, yeah,
But
definitely.
the Tigers closed the gap a bit. So, as we talked about, Red Sox are facing the Tigers 3 straight times, Monday to Wednesday. The first pitching matchup in this series for both sides is Michael Wacha on the mound for the Red Sox versus Matt Manning of the Detroit Tigers. Michael Wacha spent last year with the Tampa Bay Rays, and he went 3-5 with a 5.05 ERA in 23 starts and 29 appearances with Tampa. He also struggled this spring with the Red Sox, as he had a 6.60 ERA in spring training this year. Red Sox brought him along for pitching depth, of course, as we lost Eduardo Rodriguez, who is now on the Tigers in free agency. So we were looking for depth. And he slots into our rotation as our number 4 guy. So that's who's on the bump for the Red Sox. And on the other side of the mound for the Detroit Tigers is Matt Manning. Last year, Matt Manning went 4-7 with a 5.80 ERA, and he had a pretty solid spring this spring training for Detroit. He had a 3.65 ERA in March down in spring training. So this matchup, honestly, we talked about how we both predicted offensive shootouts last series. I mean, this has the makings of an offensive shootout. I mean, yes, Manning had a solid spring training, but spring training success doesn't always contribute or translate to regular season success. So I think we're looking at a shootout, and the Red Sox have to keep pace if they want to take this game on Monday because Waka, I don't have high hopes for him.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't instill much confidence heading out of spring training this season, but in the past, Michael Wacha was, he was an innings eater. He was a really good pitcher back in his days with the Cardinals, and he hasn't been able to find that as of recently. But who knows? Maybe he can find something with the Sox, and maybe the spring training was just, it was just bad luck at that point. But But we'll have to see what we can get out of Michael Wacha up to this point. We don't really know how much he has left. And Matt Manning, I'm not too familiar with him. I do know that he pitched for the Tigers last year. But like you said, David, it should be an offensive shootout, in this series, just due to the fact that, maybe the pitching's not going to be there this series. So excited to see what the bats can do now that we have now that hopefully the bats can turn it on this series.
And it's kind of funny how it's come full circle for the Red Sox, because when the Red Sox won the World Series in 2013, the losing pitcher in that game six, the deciding game six, was Michael Wacha back with the Cardinals. And as you said, just when we were younger and Wacha first came up with the Cardinals, he was a dominant pitcher. And it really wasn't until a couple of years ago where things started to go downhill with him in terms of statistics. But you just hope Wacha, like you said, is just someone who can eat innings for us. That's primarily the reason why the Red Sox brought him on. We're certainly not bringing him on for his amazing 5.05 ERA last year. We're bringing him on as an innings eater, so hopefully he can do just that.
Definitely.
In the second matchup coming up on Tuesday, we have Rich Hill, 42-year-old Rich Hill, on the mound for the Red Sox versus Tyler Alexander of the Detroit Tigers. Ian, this free agency, it was the 7th free agent deal that Rich Hill has agreed to with the Boston Red Sox. 7 different times, Rich Hill. He always finds his way back here. I'm sure his mindset is, look, he is from Boston. I believe he grew up right outside of Boston in Milton. And, his wife's from here. He spends his off seasons here. So no matter how many different teams he plays for, which it seems like it's a bunch at this point, it seems like he's like the Shaquille O'Neal or like the Rajon Rondo of the MLB. He always loves Boston. He'll never say no to Boston. And that was the case this offseason. So he brought him back on. Last season, he split time between Tampa Bay and the Mets pitching, and he went 7-8 with a 3.86 ERA. And for Detroit, they're going with Tyler Alexander, as I said, on the mound. Last season, he went 2-4 with a 3.81 ERA. But this is one of the rarities, or it seems like it's becoming a rarity in the MLB these days, where you're going to have 2 southpaws on the mound starting, 2 lefties. And Hill, like Wacha, back into the rotation guy. You just hope he can eat up innings. He pitched over 150 innings last year. Hopefully won't need that much out of a 42-year-old guy, but this has the makings of another. I think this one, honestly, could be a lower scoring game, and it might be a nail biter because both these players have sub-4 ERAs. They can put together respectable outings. I think we could be looking at this more being a game down to the bullpen, if you ask me.
Yeah. And I mean, Rich Hill got shelled, I think, in his last game in spring training before the end of the year. But, like you said, I mean, Rich Hill, he's kind of an ageless wonder at this point. He's just going to come in. He's going to eat innings. He's going to pitch his 5-6 innings with his 88-mile-an-hour fastball and 69-mile-an-hour curveball and, get out of there. So, I mean, I'm happy we got Rich Hill back. I think one of my favorite memories was, I think he was playing the Orioles and he threw the shutout and Mookie Betts made that game-winning catch over the wall.
He saved the shutout. Yep.
He saved the shutout, and that was probably one of my favorite Rich Hill Red Sox moments. But so I'm excited to see what we can get out of Rich Hill. Like we said, we can't expect too much out of him at this point in his career. We just kind of got to hope that he doesn't get shelled by the Tigers, and that's pretty much the best I can do with Rich Hill here. Tyler Alexander, on the other hand, he's an okay pitcher. He's a solid pitcher. He's one of those guys that maybe he's going to dominate the Red Sox just randomly like Jordan Montgomery does. But it should be an interesting game. I think this one will probably come down to the offensive side of the ball because, say Rich Hill, gives up a few runs early in the game. The offense just has to respond to that. And that's going to be pretty important when it comes down to the series with the Tigers, in my opinion.
And I just want to go off on a tangent for a quick second. I'm officially 21. It's not my birthday. This. Oh, thank you, Ian. Yeah, we just got done doing the post-series recap a few minutes ago and doing double duty, like I said at the beginning. But officially 21.
Definitely about to have your first drink, right, David?
Oh, of course, yeah. Why not start right now? 2 minutes
definitely.
into the new day. Yeah.
Never had a drink before, right? You never have underage drinking before.
Oh no, I actually no, I'm pretty clean with that stuff. But hey, everyone has their own choices. My choice is when Chris Sale comes back on the rotation that either Michael Walker or Rich Hill. Yeah, you like that segue. I hope one of them get kicked out of the rotation. Um, or I shouldn't say that. That sounds kind of rude. But my point being, when Chris Sale is healthy and whenever he comes back some point in June, it seems like I imagine Hill or Walker will be the one that stays out of the rotation. So we won't need to rely on them as much. But for the time being, you just hope Walker and Hill can hold it down the back end of the rotation.
Yeah,
So
definitely, definitely.
and the third and final game of the series, it's the battle of the aces for both teams as Nathan Eovaldi is back on the bump for the Red Sox versus old friend Eduardo Rodriguez, the Detroit
Erod.
Tigers. Erod departed on a 5-year, $80 million deal this free agency to Detroit. Red Sox opted not to pay him that much as he's making $16 million a year. Eovaldi in his first start wasn't great, as we talked about in the post-series recap. He suffered from the home run ball, and he currently stands at a 0-0 record with a 5.40 ERA so far in 2022. Erod also had an opening day start to forget for Detroit, as he has no record as well. And after one start, he has an ERA at 6.75. So honestly, I would say that both these pitchers are going to rebound, and I'm maybe this is a hot take, but I think this game is really going to be low scoring too. I don't envision both Evaldi and Erod having back to back bad starts. Although after having Erod be a part of our team for years, he's very streaky, and it seems like last year he started off 5-0, then he lost 4 straight games. So sure, I could be wrong, and Erod could put together another bad start, but I do think Evaldi is going to rebound and I think this game's going to come down to the bullpen. I think both these pitchers, former teammates, former pitching rotation members of the Boston Red Sox for a few years, are going to go neck and neck in this one.
Yeah, this game is going to be interesting to see because I want to see how Nathan Eovaldi bounces back. No offense to the Detroit Tigers at all, but I think the New York Yankees lineup is a little more daunting than the Tigers lineup is. So I can really see Nathan Eovaldi coming out and having a pretty solid game. With Eduardo Rodriguez, like you said, he's streaky. You never really know what you're going to get out of him. Hopefully, for the Red Sox, he's kind of not on one of his more torrid streaks where maybe they can knock him around a little bit and get a few runs across early for Nathan Eovaldi so he doesn't have to worry about it too much. But also, there's times where Eduardo Rodriguez can look like one of the best pitchers in the game of baseball. There were times, all the times during his Red Sox tenure where he looked like he was going to be the ace of the future at this point. So, you never know what you're going to get out of Eduardo Rodriguez, and I still like Eduardo Rodriguez to this day. He still was one of my favorite pitchers that the Sox had. So we'll have to see what he does, but I think this is a chance for Nathan Eovaldi to bounce back and hopefully put together a pretty solid performance.
This is a good segue into talk about X factors for this series because if you look at the Detroit Tigers starting lineup, at least the one they've been rolling out the last few games, there's a lot of home run hitting power at the top of that lineup with people like Grossman, Meadows, Baez, Candelario, who have the potential to hit 15, 20 home runs in a season. And with a team like the Red Sox coming off a series against the Yankees and struggling mightily in a couple of those games with the home run ball, it's going to be something interesting to see where we're going to find out, is the home run ball really going to be a true problem with Red Sox pitching this year? Or was that just a 3-game thing?
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna have to see honestly, I feel like I don't think the home run ball will be too much of a problem because Detroit is more of a pitcher friendly kind of ballpark. So hopefully we can keep the ball in the yard this series, but you never know really.
For
I think
sure.
yeah, for sure.
No, Comerica Park is way friendlier to pitchers than the Mickey Mouse ballpark known as Yankee Stadium. So another X factor before I toss it over to you for X factors and all that jazz. Trevor Story was unavailable for the game today. As Cora said, he's experiencing flu-like symptoms. Don't know his availability for the Detroit series. I imagine he'll make the flight with them, but this certainly could be an X factor if he's in the lineup or not. Obviously, Arauz held his own in the last game against the Yankees, making contact and getting an RBI. But Arauz is a backup for a reason. You can't rely on him to sustainably and consistently produce at the back end of the lineup. And you need someone like Story in the lineup because that's why you gave him $140 million in the offseason. So, it's not life or death if Story misses the second series of an 162 game MLB season, but you'd like him to be in there. And, I don't want to throw out the COVID word, but of course, flu like symptoms is very similar to COVID. Maybe this is just me stretching. Don't come at me, MLB media or whatever, but you just don't want this to be a lingering problem.
No, I get it. And I mean, the flu season is going around right now, so anyone can get sick at this point. So I'm hoping Trevor Story is okay, but give him time, I guess. If he has to sit out this series, you can't really be too mad about it. We do have Christian Arroyo still. Christian Arroyo played second base last year. He'll be fine there if you didn't want to play Arauz every single game. And, I mean, at worst, he's out for like a week. I don't see it being too big of a problem when it comes to Trevor Story, but I'm excited. I'm excited to see him back in the lineup because he is must-see TV when he's up to bat. So
for sure, he's a big part of the Red Sox plans this year. And of course, I'm exaggerating. Story's not probably going to be out for the long term, but it's just something to monitor for the time. I'll toss it over to you though. What's advantages, disadvantages for either side? X factors. What are you thinking are going to be make or break points for Boston and Detroit in this series?
Yeah, there's not too many times that I can say this with the Red Sox pitching, but I do feel like they have the advantage in this series. Detroit, they're a good team. They're on the come up. You're not going to expect them to win, 80, 90 games this year. But at the same time, they're kind of one of those teams where, they're kind of looking for some of their starters and their pitching to kind of show a little more results than they have in the past few years. But I feel like the Sox have the upper hand when it comes to the pitching and the hitting in this case. So I feel like that's going to be a big thing for the Sox. If, like I said, no disrespect to the Tigers, but I do feel like the Red Sox are the better team overall. But at the same time, there have been times over the last few years where, for some reason, the Red Sox have not been able to beat Detroit in Detroit, it feels like. At least I remember, was it last year or the year before, where we were playing Detroit, and I think we didn't get swept or we lost like 2 out of 3 there. But it feels like anytime we play in Detroit, they always play us super difficult.
No, I agree. I mean, I think it was last year in July where it just seemed like a slam dunk series and we lost 2 or 3. Even when they come to Fenway, I remember last year there was some crazy game where we beat them like 14-13, and it's just back and forth. It was so unnecessary because, as we talked about, Detroit is just not the same team as they were last year, where they struggled a lot. But yeah, I think pitching wise, you just hope Waka and Hill can eat up innings. Obviously, no off day in between these series between New York and Detroit, so you're going to need Waka and Hill to hopefully just go 6 innings or something, because we can't just keep putting the pressure on this bullpen to succeed. And you hope Eovaldi puts in a good outing in the third and final game. But yes, this Red Sox team is better than Detroit. I think these are the series you need to win against teams that, they're not. We're in the Red Sox competing for a playoff spot, and it's obviously very realistic that Boston can make the playoffs again, especially with the added wild card spot this year in both leagues. But there's teams like Detroit who I don't expect to even make a wild card spot, but they're going to be lingering in the standings. They're going to be a respectable record. You need to win games and win series against teams who can play spoiler, can give you trouble. And especially now, the Red Sox need to win this series. I don't care about a sweep. They just need to win this series after falling flat in the 3 games against New York. So, you don't want to talk about a lost season, but if the Red Sox come out of this heading back home for the home opener against Minnesota being 2-4, it's not going to be good. I would like to see them 500 you can work with, but the Red Sox just need to focus on winning the series, taking the pressure off of the bullpen, and just having the offense click and finally get hits with runners in scoring position.
Definitely. That last one is huge for this series. Definitely.
And something that the Red Sox are going to be toying with in the second game, which will be interesting, is it looks like Garrett Whitlock's going to be available to pitch again on Tuesday. Cora talked about how Rich Hill and Garrett Whitlock can pitch in the same games. So if we could get 5 innings out of Rich Hill, and then you look at something like Garrett Whitlock pitch in the last 4, that's like I feel like
That
that's
would be your
key to
ideal
success.
situation. Yeah, that's something because I knew that's what they did in spring training because they had Rich Hill pitch the same days that Whitlock would pitch. So I can see that as a real possibility. I don't know if we're gonna get 4 innings out of Whitlock because
Right.
I don't know how long he can really go at the moment. But if we can get 2-3 innings maybe out of him, and Rich Hill can give us 4 or 5, I feel like that'll be the most ideal situation for the Sox in that game.
No, I agree. And the Red Sox are stretching out Whitlock, so he no longer pitches 1 inning per relief appearance. He pitches every 3 or 4 days, gives you multiple innings out of the pen. And quite frankly, we're going to need it.
Definitely,
With the way the
we're gonna
bullpen
need
is.
it.
But congrats to Garrett Whitlock as well, as he got an
Oh yes,
extension.
4-year extension.
Well deserved. If you ask me, Red Sox kind of robbed him. I feel like he's worth a lot more, but we'll take it. He's under team control. Any other thoughts on this series? Anything stand out to you before we wrap this up?
I think the Tigers are gonna put up a good fight. Maybe the Lions can come through, and that was a joke from our previous post game series where Justin flashed up the preview for next game and it said Detroit Lions instead of Tigers, but whatever. But yeah, I think the Tigers are gonna put up a good fight. I don't know how far they're gonna go in this game against the Sox, but I feel like it's one of those things where the Sox just kind of have to focus on taking care of business and get ready to get back home to play their home opener against Minnesota.
So what's your series prediction? Who do you think's winning the series? How many games?
See, I made this prediction last time and it didn't go in my favor, but I'm still taking the Sox 2-1 in this series. As much as I was just talking about on how I don't think the the Tigers are the best team, I do think that they're going to scratch and claw their way to win at least one game in this series, whether it be the Eduardo Rodriguez game or maybe the opening game against Michael Wacha. But I do think the Sox can pull it out. I'm hoping that we can get some solid innings out of Wacha and Rich Hill moving forward, and especially in these couple games. But I still think I'm going to go 2-1 for my series prediction.
I'm going to agree with you, Ian. I think the Red Sox are going to take 2 or 3 in this series against Detroit. I think we are going to lose this first game in the series, Wacha versus Matt Manning, because it has the likes of an offensive shootout. And I still don't think the Red Sox are there yet where they can keep track in an offensive shootout. And I think Detroit's just going to maybe just have, I hope not a home run derby, but you just don't know with all the power they have in their lineup. But I do think we are going to rebound and take the final 2 games here. I think Rich Hill and Garrett Whitlock, that tandem, like we talked about, if that transpires come Tuesday, is just going to shut down Detroit. And in the battle of the aces, I think Evaldi's just going to get the better of Erod. So, if this all comes true, we're looking at the Red Sox starting or going back to Fenway at 3-3, 500. Not amazing. Probably should have been a lot better because, as we talked about in the post series recap, we feel like we blew the New York series a little bit, wasted opportunity there. But you feel a lot better at 500 heading back home than you do certainly at 2-4, or worst case scenario, 1-5.
Definitely.
Alrighty, so yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this recap. Ian, thanks for doing this with me. And
of course,
12:16 in the morning. Brady will be back with you, hopefully, for play-by-play coverage of the first game in this series on Monday or later today, because you'll be seeing this video right after we finish recording. I'll upload it. So Brady will have you covered for Red Sox play-by-play later today, and we'll all have you covered when the season ends with series ends with another post-series recap of this Red Sox Tiger series. You can certainly tell I'm just so tired at this point. Make sure you like, subscribe. So much content coming out this way. Play-by-play, post-series recaps, pre-series previews, and after every Red Sox game, I post a short on the BSML Red Sox YouTube channel. So we have you covered for all things Red Sox. Make sure to also follow us on Instagram too at bsml.redsox. Follow our Boston Sports Media Live Instagram page as well. All the other things, Celtics, Bruins, Patriots. We got so much content coming for you. We're taking over the Boston sports media market. And we will talk to you guys later. Take care.